Hey design enthusiasts, welcome to Next in Line Design, a podcast by the World Design Organization's Young Designers Circle. We're all about embracing a new mindset in design, one that's bold, innovative, and impactful. We're here to connect with the next wave of design talent and explore how you can use your creativity to make a real impact. Get ready for fresh ideas and inspiration from young designers around the world who are reshaping the industry. We're here to spark conversations, inspire change, and explore new ideas in design. But remember, these are just our perspectives on one big, evolving field. Please note that the opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official views of the World Design Organization or its affiliates. Let's dive in and see what's next in line. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Next in Line Design podcast. I'm Alexis Divis, your host for today's episode. I'm a multidisciplinary designer based in the New York City area, and I am currently working in the healthcare industry. So in today's episode, we're going to be chatting with one of my peers and now really good friends, Rhea Thomas. She's a transdisciplinary designer and social innovator who is passionate about tackling complex problems and creating holistic solutions that instigate transformative change at a systemic level. And if you don't know what that means, because it's a lot of big words, we're going to be getting into it. She's an amazing design leader. She merges design technology and behavioral sciences to create this really unique craft that's recently been rooted in sustainability. So I'm really excited to introduce you to my good friend, to brag about her and her amazing work, and to hopefully inspire you, our audience today, with her amazing story. So welcome, Rhea.
Hi, Alexis. Thank you so much for having me. It's amazing being on the Young Designers podcast.
I know, how fun. Okay, Rhea, so let's get into the beginning of your story. We always need to set some context. So I would love if you could give us a quick intro or TLDR of your design journey so far.
I think my design journey goes the way back, like the beginning of me being a child. I was always with like my mother's lipstick, drawing, like using it like a crayon and drawing all over the place and like just using whatever around the house, and like that was my canvas. So even as a child, I was very artistic was the word people used. And then over time, I think when I got into school, it was me spacing out during class and just daydreaming and like creating all of these different scenarios. And I feel like that's when like the imagination, like that muscle in my brain really like strengthened.
Mm-hmm.
And when it got to like 10th grade and everybody's having to like choose what do you want to do in life, suddenly I'm like, wait a minute, what do I want? It's like,
oh no.
And then I think for me at that point, it was very much like tapping into like, okay, I'm artistic. I like all the arts and crafts. And then I like imagining things. So very much tapping into that artistic space, I decided I want to get into design.
Okay.
Not know at that point what that meant or like what that would look like, but I was like, okay, design is my cup of tea and this is what my journey is going to be like. And then foundation year, I was like exposed to so many different disciplines and I was like, this is so interesting. And at that point, I was like, how do I choose between communication design and industrial design? And I was like, I want to do both. And I feel like that's something that has carried on with everything. I'm like, I want to do this and that. And which is where even now I'm like, I want to combine design and technology and like behavioral science. I don't want to like box myself into one thing. I'm like, how can I pick the best of all the interesting things I find and like put it in like my little toolbox? So I got into design and then I gravitated towards industrial design. I realized with industrial design, it changed the way I saw things. Like I realized everything's designed, everything's created. And that gave me a sense of purpose in terms of me as a person, being able to shape things around me and use that imagination for something felt very powerful. And I think over time, I just like leaned into more, and then that gave me clarity on like, what do I want to be using those skills for? And working in the industry for a bit gave me the clarity as to like, okay, now I want to be actually changing things around the world. I want to tap into more of being a leader and shaping things. And that's when I kind of made the move to the UK to do my master's in global innovation design at the Royal College of Art and Imperial, College London, and I feel like that as well gave me so much of experience and exposure in terms of ways of thinking about design, and like whole new worlds of like regenerative design, things that I terminologies that I've never heard of before, and suddenly it was like it brought together all these different things that made sense to me, but existed in the world. And for me, I feel my design journey has been kind of like navigating my way and finding my way through. And I'm still going to like unravel things as I go forward, but it's been very exciting so far.
I feel like that's a pretty good recap. We did miss some like major high points that I'd like to highlight, like attending the Queen's birthday celebration or like anyways, Rhea's got so many fun tidbits and side quests that she's been on throughout this design journey. But one of them that I wanted to highlight, and something that I think we can all learn from as the audience from Rhea's story, is that Rhea finds the most incredible opportunities that propel her journey. So one of the opportunities that I wanted to highlight that you were a part of was being recognized as a goalkeeper by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for your contributions towards their 2030 agenda. There we go. I got that out. Anyways, can you tell me a little bit more about what that meant for you, what it means for your career, and how you found an opportunity like that?
To be very honest, that's not something that I knew of. Like, I know I've applied for a lot of things. Like, I know I've applied for a lot of programs. And one of the programs that I did apply for was the Unite 2030 youth development program. Because as I said, I was like trying to navigate what do I want to be doing as a designer and how do I use skills for like changing the world. And something around 2018 that was very much in front of me was the SDGs. And I was like, I need to know what it is. How do I integrate that into my design practice? So it was very much like, I need to learn this. I need to know what it is. And that I came across like the Unite 2030 program. I did the youth development program, which meant that I had like this whole new framework for myself. And I did that program, and I took part in the Innovation Accelerator program, I think a year and a half later in New York. And taking part in that program was amazing because you're meeting all of these change makers from across the world who are not just designers, but they're like some studying economics, policy, there's like a wide range of people, but they're all young, passionate about making a difference. So I took part in that program, and at the end of the week, all of us were like on a billboard in New York, Times Square. And like a few days later, I get like an email saying that I've been nominated to be a goalkeeper for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And I had no idea where this came from. But it's one of those things that, you know, you have mentors that kind of see your progress and see the journey that you've been on. And basically the project that I worked on with the Unite 2030, the director of that program is who nominated me for the Bill and Melinda.
Oh, Rhea. Okay, that's fascinating. Also, I'm going to break this down for anybody who might be like, what the heck is an SDG? What the heck is Rhea doing? Okay, so the SDGs are the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and they were created so they're purpose-aligned missions, right? Like, Rhea, give me an example. What's your favorite SDG?
Mine's climate action. So
climate action. Yeah. Great. So it's essentially a bunch of purpose-driven goals that we can work towards to design a better future. And it's not just specific to design, it's specific to so many industries, but designers like Rhea and I really key into these UN SDGs, especially like with our whole team at the Young Designers Circle. All of us are definitely very purpose and mission driven in designing for a better world. So the United Nations SDGs are sort of like a great a great toolkit for us to be having. Okay, so I didn't realize that you didn't even apply to that it was just like you were nominated. That is crazy, Rhea.
That's like another amazing thing about a lot of these communities. It's you can't apply to be a part of it. You have to be nominated. You have to be recognized and selected, which is why I think for me it felt a little bit more rewarding.
Yeah.
Somebody that has seen potential in me. And for me, I feel like that's validating when somebody sees potential in you and lets you know that.
No, that is so validating. I'm a words of affirmation girly. Are you a words of affirmation girly? Because that's my love language. So whenever things like that happen, I'm like, yes, I love it. Okay, but That's an amazing opportunity. I'm so proud of you. Like, how cool. And just how inspirational to be like, you put your head down, you were grinding it out, you were figuring out your path, and then all of a sudden they're like, and come work with Bill and Melinda Gates. That's so
Yeah, I
sick.
mean,
I love it.
it's a pretty incredible event because suddenly you're in this room with all these people that you've read about and you probably got books about them and you read them and suddenly you're like, wait a minute, that's Malala and that's Bill Gates and that's Lily Singh.
Malala.
And
Over
you're
here
like,
with Malala. No, that's crazy. And you know, you're a young person, you're just starting out, and the fact that you were able to kind of have those opportunities is so cool. So let's key in on specifically what you're doing now to sort of provide some context, like your current initiatives, Seasprout,
yes.
and you know what you're doing.
Yeah, so Seasprout's a project that was born during my master's thesis. So it was my final project where I started looking at seafood waste because at that point I was very interested in material innovation. I was also very interested in like community driven work.
Mhm.
So project kind of was like again a combination of like behaviorals and like design technology and like these different things that I pulled together. Uh,
Mhm.
so Seasprout's basically a material innovation that uses seafood waste, prawn shells mainly, from the seafood industry to create a regenerative material that is an alternative to single-use plastic that has various applications within the packaging sector. So when I finished my kind of thesis, the proposition that I had was I'd created this regenerative material made out of prawn shell waste that
Mhm.
made into uh, plant pots that could basically you put your plants in, you grow them, and then at the end of life, like when the sapling's born, instead of like removing the plastic and like putting the plant in the soil, you basically put the pot in the soil with the plant, and that breaks down and creates like plant fertilizer. So it's
Mhm.
like a circular loop, but it's also like a regenerative system because you're preventing a lot of like the seafood waste that's being collected in these factories. They're not being disposed in like landfills or these water bodies illegally because of the high cost of disposal. So you're diverting
Mhm.
the waste stream, but also you're eliminating like the plastic that would otherwise be generated. You're like eliminating that as well. So in that
Yeah.
sense, very regenerative, holistic solution.
I love Sea Sprout. I think it's a fantastic idea. So, can you key in a little bit more on why prawn shells? Like, what brought you to seafood waste?
Okay, so I actually come from a coastal town. So I come from a coastal town in India, in Mangalore, and you grow up eating a lot of like seafood, and but it's not a problem that you associate or see. And this is
Mhm.
one of those things that when I was traveling as part of my master's in Japan, you start when you travel and you go to another place, you become observant of a lot of different things. And this is one of those things you become observant of is like the amount of seafood that's consumed, the amount of like plastic waste that's being generated, and you're like wondering, how does this all make sense? You also realize I was taking a course at the university around like circular economy and
Mhm.
questioning a lot of these things as to like where do all these things come from? And then when you look into it, there's around like 12 million tons of prawn shell waste that's being generated. And you're like,
Mhm.
that is a lot. But like what's happening to it? And then when you start questioning these things, you start uncovering problems or like you start discovering things that you hadn't thought of before.
Right.
And then that's kind of how I realized that, okay, that is a problem area and nobody is looking into it.
You're
Um,
like, now is my time. Now is Sea Sprout's time. No, I think that's amazing. And um, team, if you're not getting this about Rhea yet, she will drop like the most amazing tidbits in the most subtle ways. So did you see how characters in Japan like came out? Like we didn't even touch on that before. Like, oh, just such like and a wealth of experience that you've had already. It's so exciting. And I love that Sea Sprout is tied to your roots. It's tied to what you know. And I feel like that makes it such like an authentic and compelling solution when you can bring it back to like when I was a kid, I lived in this town and I saw this happening and I never thought about the implications. And so I'm turning it into this amazing solution. I am really impressed with you all the time. So walk us through how long did Sea Sprout take to develop and how did you develop it? I know it was quite a process. So maybe our audience would be interested in hearing about that.
I mean, I've had a lot of support along the way. So it started off with a master's thesis, which was 6 months long.
Yeah.
And after that, for a year long, I was part of an accelerator program, which was called Greenhouse Climate Tech Accelerator Program, which is by Imperial College London. And they're amazing because they basically, as a designer, I didn't know anything about starting a company in the UK, about how do you go about setting that up, what does it look like to even go about turning an idea that's, into an
Disappear.
into like a real business. Like, how do you go about that? And they were amazing in terms of like providing the right kind of mentors, providing the right kind of like workshops and infrastructure for me, even like access to lab space. When you're starting out and you don't even know how to go about it, they were quite supportive in that sense of giving me the right tools, the infrastructure, and the framework. So we had
Right.
workshops on like how do I even create like a financial model, because a lot of times designers, I feel like we need to know these things, but
Yes.
we're not the people in charge of these things. So when you become like a design founder, a lot of this is not in your vocabulary. You're like, how do I create this statement? And how
Yeah.
do I pay my taxes? And suddenly you're like, wait a minute, nobody told me how to do this or taught me how to do this.
I'm not the numbers guy. I just draw the pictures. Stop it. Yeah,
You
pretty
have
much.
to like learn all of this on the go, and then apart from that you're having to like build relationships in terms of making sure you have a product market fit, making sure
Mhm.
you have customers that are actually willing to buy this product, and then actually working on the material and making sure this great idea that you have is actually going to sustain in the real world. um,
Right.
so it was a lot of things, but I feel like I was very blessed in that way that I had like the right people, the like resources that came in at the right time. I'm gonna like drop another tidbit where
Yes.
so I basically graduated from my master's and we have like an exhibition, and then a few months down the line I got an email from my like an email saying that I've been nominated for this award, and I was really excited because I was like, I've never heard of this award, but it's been amazing. And then I came to know my thesis advisor nominated me for this award, and
Mhm.
I went on to win it, and I got my first £10,000. But the next day, I was in like BBC News, and I was like, okay, this is amazing. But that meant that people were then reaching out to me saying, like, when can we get this material? Like, is this a real thing? And so
Yeah.
I had like the traction to prove that the business would work. So a lot of times, that's kind of what people need to see. Like, do you have product market fit? Do you have like traction? And suddenly, a lot of
Mhm.
kind of like fell into place. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah,
It fell into place, but then the pressure turned on. It was like, make it happen.
yeah,
No, that's incredible. And I think like what I'm really glad you highlighted there and what I wanted to pull out for the audience today specifically was like these things don't happen alone. I feel like a lot of people talk about like creating a great idea or, making a company and things like that. And not everybody is always open about like sharing the process behind that and how those skills are learned or, like the fact that mentors were a part of it or the fact that a program was a part of it or a scholarship like these like your ideas can become very real. Like you just need the right support
yeah.
to learn what you need to learn to like fill in those gaps like you said the numbers like oof, that would be very very intimidating for me for sure. So extremely impressive, Rhea. And I'm sure then like when you started having like TV appearances you needed to get your wardrobe in check too. Then it was like putting off the new outfits. Like, I would be excited about that part for sure. No, that's awesome. Okay, so that's a little bit about Seasprout. That's amazing. And so Seasprout is your current endeavor. That's what you're working on. And where when you look at the future of Seasprout and when you look at the future of Rhea Thomas as a designer and what could potentially lie ahead, what are some of the things you're most looking forward to in this next chapter of your career?
Um, I don't think I have anything written in stone, but I'm excited for like to like see where my path goes in a way, because I feel like I'm always like uncovering new things and discovering new things, and like that makes me go down like this learning journey and like a rabbit hole of like I need to figure this out. I need to like learn it. I need to feel on top of it. And I feel like another thing that I'm currently doing is like vibe coding, because it's just
Mhm.
and I'm like,
Ah, I heard about this. Talk more about this. I was just learning about this week. Tell me more.
yeah. So I'm like, there's like, when you hear a fancy new thing and you're like, I need to know what that is, and suddenly you're like found
Exactly.
that tool, and suddenly you're like, this is so cool, and you're like using it. So that's what I've been doing. I've been like prototyping on Lovable for the fun of it and just like learning it, and now I'm like, I know like vibe coding, and I know how to use like Lovable well, and I feel like confident enough to say that I know what it is. I can move on.
I love it.
So basically, vibe coding is you basically like how you would chat to ChatGPT, but
Mhm.
except when you put in that prompt to ChatGPT, it generates like a website or like whatever you've told it to build, and you're not having to like code anything. So it's like prototyped and built what you've said, which I think is amazing.
Sickening.
I,
So cool.
yeah, this is amazing. Uh,
Yeah, I am definitely drawn to that. So I work mostly in digital products now, after going into industrial design school. And so vibe coding has definitely been like a topic of importance for me lately as a designer who didn't learn code in school. So I've been reading up on that, Rhea, but that is such a cool tool to add to your little imaginary Rhea Thomas toolbox. I love it. And I also love that like sometimes it's okay to not have a plan. Like you can, if you know that you're a rabbit hole girl and you just go what you're passionate about, like leaving that space is important. Like it's important to not put up like too many walls, too many fences, like narrow your scope if you know that you're going to be exploring. So it sounds like you're in your like exploratory era, like
I feel
figuring
like
it out.
I'm in like a forever exploratory era, which is why I feel like even when I took my master's, people were like, masters, you generally like hone in on something, you like specialize in something. You seem to be like widening out your scope.
You're doing the opposite.
You're
What the
like
heck?
this is like you want to be like the queen of generalists or something, like the global innovation design. What are you specializing in? So I feel like it's taught me to be open-ended in that sense where I can learn new things, I can keep adapting and build
Mhm.
on those skill sets. So my toolbox is like forever filling up with like the most relevant things. So I feel like I'll be always future ready in a way.
I think that's great. Future proofing.
Yeah.
So good. So, what kind of advice would you give to a young designer who's looking to expand that toolbox or build the confidence to be curious and start expanding the scope?
I think this is something like a piece of advice that I was given when I started out. Like when
Mhm.
I had that dilemma of like, do I want to be an industrial designer? Do I want to be a communication designer? I feel like these are boxes that we have created to like, you know, make sure that we're job ready. But I feel like in the end of the day, you just need to like embrace and do things that you enjoy and like develop the skills and develop the confidence. So if it's like tools that you feel like you need, go learn those tools. And I feel like we live in an age where everything's accessible on like YouTube or like if you want to search for it, it is probably out there somewhere. And if you feel like you don't have access to it, if you probably ask the people around you, they can probably point to you. If not, ask ChatGPT, you know, they'll probably give you advice on like what the online courses is, how to go about it. So like be open to learning new things. Don't feel restricted because you chose something. You need to like double down on that and like narrow yourself. uh,
Mhm.
if something interests you, go follow it, like learn it, and then make that decision that maybe you enjoy it, maybe you don't. If you don't, keep it out.
Leave it at the toolbox. Don't even put it in there.
Yeah.
That's
But I
so
feel like
awesome.
if you never try, you never know. It's one of those things. Yeah.
No, I think that's a really great point. And I think that's a point that is scary sometimes, like in post grad. Like in school, it's like, okay, this is where you experiment and this is where you try to find like what the
Yeah.
rest of your career might look like or what your toolbox might look like, but like that never really ends. So when you're out of school, like you just keep going. There's still time. Yeah. But okay, great advice for young people. So switching it up to back to just Rhea, back to a just Rhea rabbit hole. I always like to end or sort of start to wrap up our one-on-one interviews with a question similar to this because I think they're so fun to ask. Um, so Rhea, if you could redesign any product that currently exists, if you could leave Seasprout in the dust
Hmm.
for like 3 years, right? And you could drop everything and you had unlimited money and unlimited resources and curiosity, what product would you redesign that already currently exists?
Oh, that is such a good question. I feel like so many things are coming to mind. I
And it
think
doesn't have to be one. You can list if you need to.
I think I'd probably start with like the recycling system or like the waste segregation.
Mm.
Because like even now when I go to work, sometimes I'm like standing in front of the bin with like my things, being like, okay, does the lid go into that? Does the box go into that? Oh, I ate food in it. It's not washed. Where does it go? And it's like the same dilemma with so many people. And I feel like it's so broken in a way that you would just end up throwing everything in the trash. Even when you go into like other countries, like every country's recycling system is different. So you're like standing in front of that image and you're like, where does this go? And I feel like it can be so much easier because we
Yeah.
consume so much and we produce so much. Obviously, we should try and work this out by now.
I think it's a great thing to redesign. So that's almost like systems thinking
Yeah, I mean,
plus
yeah,
like,
it's like product system. I can almost do like regulations in terms of like the city level. Like, what does that mean in terms of like household waste collection or like university waste collection? Where does it all go? And also like in terms of recycling centers, like how do they go about processing all of these things? Because a lot of like recycling centers, even yeah, they don't recycle the things they receive. So it's a broken system that needs fixing.
I totally agree with you. When I was, Rhea and I both recently attended the World Design Congress in London. And after I was wrapped up in London, I actually stayed in Rhea's apartment. It was great. After I was wrapped up, I went to Belgium and I experienced the same conundrum that you just explained. Belgium has like all of these different colored,
Yeah, it's like these
things.
whole boxy, domey things.
Exactly. And in the US, we normally just have like recycle and trash. And honestly, both of them are just trash because it seems like nobody cares. And so in Belgium, I had just ordered like a takeout coffee and I had like a stir, an empty sugar packet, an empty coffee. And I was looking at it and I was like, actually, I don't even know where to start. I was like, I have no idea what to do. And I felt a lot of pressure and everybody's walking by me. And it was one of those moments where I was like, everyone's looking at me, like, look away.
Trash. And that's the moment it goes into the trash. You're like, forget the recycling, forget the
Right.
segregation. It goes into the trash.
Like it needs to go somewhere. Like, where is it supposed to go? So I think that is actually a really, really great and interesting challenge and well suited for someone with an amazing toolkit like yours, Rhea. So that's really great. Okay. As a very final note, last question of the interview. Rhea, if you could share any resources, any books that are impactful to you, any articles, people that you follow that you love, what are you being inspired by right now? What would you share to the audience today? And what's top of mind? What's sticking out for resources?
Mm, I feel like this is something that I weirdly do because I'm like very inspired by some of my alumni from my
Yeah,
course. So sometimes I like look them up on like LinkedIn or like Instagram and see what they're up to. This is like the very stalkerish part of me that I'm
that's
like,
okay. I've done it too. We're in it together.
and then sometimes you see something that interests you, and then I tend to like reach out to them and be like, "Can I have a conversation with you?" It doesn't have to be like something on a particular topic. It's just to like get to know about that person, what they're doing, and then sometimes they mention things to you, like going back to opportunities or events they will recommend to you that you may not know of, or it's not in your, you know, you've not thought of it. It's and that suddenly comes in, and then you're like, okay, you take part in that, and then you go down this like rabbit hole. So for me, it's like a lot of the alumni. Uh, they inspire me because I feel like everyone's doing different incredible things. Yeah, and I feel like this is probably like each young person can do it in their own way where they can like reach out to people on LinkedIn and like ask for that free coffee because very often
Yeah,
they will say yes. I mean, the
yeah,
worst they can do is probably ignore that message. You're not going to lose much. Well, I'm sure like initially when I got ghosted, I was like, oh my gosh, that person doesn't like me. And then after a while, you realize they probably just don't have the time or the bandwidth to respond. Yeah,
absolutely.
I feel like, yeah, a lot of my alumni network, they do inspire me a lot. And
I
yeah.
think that's a great thing that hasn't really been keyed in yet on our video series. I think that's that real people resources are the best resources. And I think alumni are a great thing to highlight, Rhea, because they're not that different in age normally. Like they're normally just like the chapter ahead of you that you're imagining. You're like, okay, I'm about to be headed into that. And what are they up to? And what are they doing? I think that is a really, really clever resource to recommend.
I've noticed, like, especially for me, I have like a hard time sometimes like starting conversation. Whereas when with you have like the similar lived experience of like the same masters or the same undergrad, so you have like a space of like similarity or like common ground, like some common people, so you can just like bond over that. Then from there it gets easy, like.
No, it does. It does. Every connection is easier. You're so right, Rhea. So I feel like practicing that bone of connecting, reaching out, sometimes facing rejection and recovering, like that is such an important skill to be building at this stage in our careers. So thank you so much for that advice. Very wise. And thank you so much for your time today, Rhea. That's the end of our episode for now. But I've so appreciated having you on today.
Thank you so much, Alexis, for having me. And thank you. Bye.
Bye. Next in Line Design is a podcast for designers by young designers. We hope that you really enjoyed today's episode. We've got some really exciting conversations coming up that we can't wait to share with you. Every episode, you're going to have the chance to meet a new member of the YDC. So enjoy our rotating cast of designers and feel free to reach out in the comments just to say hey, maybe to share some feedback, your story, or tell us more about the kind of conversations that you'd like to be hearing. In the meantime, make sure to subscribe to the WDO's channels and hit that notification bell so that you never miss an episode. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you back here soon with more of Next in Line Design.